Hello, Algebra! This is day 13 of your AMI, and I've been singing Christmas songs. For some reason, the quarantine is getting to me a little bit. So, festiveness. Day 13 is all about factoring, okay, and finding the greatest common factor. So we're going to find the GCF. I'm going to start off with an easy one right here. Minus x cubed. All right, so when we're looking at the GCF, the greatest common factor, we're going to look at what do all three terms have in common. This one's an easy one. They're all threes, so they have that in common. So we're going to factor out a 3 from each expression. They also share variables that are the same. They all have an x of some sort on them. This one has 1x, this has 4 x's, and 3. So this term right here is actually 3 times x plus 3 times x times x times x times x. That's got 4 of them. Minus 3 times x times x times x. So that's the factored form of this expression. Well, the long form, not factored form, it's the long form. So we're going to look at what they have in common. Each one of these terms shares a 3 and a single x, right? So we're going to factor that out. We're going to pull out a 3x, okay? And we're going to look at what is left. If I take a 3x and divide it by 3x, I'm left with 1, okay? And I'm going to add to that, factored out these 3x and this 3x, I'm left with x cubed up here, which makes sense. If I take this 3x to the 4th and factor out 3x, that takes away the 3 and it takes away one of my x's, and that leaves me x cubed. And then lastly, I'm factoring out 3x and I'm left with x squared. Okay, so this is my factored form, and I can check it. Let's look at what it takes to check this. Okay, I'm going to redistribute this 3x through my parentheses. 3x times 1 gives me 3x. 3x times x cubed. Now whenever I'm multiplying variables and I have exponents, I'm going to add those. So plus 3x to the 4th minus 3x cubed. And if this matches this, then you factored it correctly. Okay, so let's look at something a little harder. In this expression, 2 of my terms have variables in it. My last term does not. So I'm not going to be factoring out any sort of variable from this. But I still do need to look at what my greatest common factor is between these 3 terms. Essentially, what's the biggest number that will go into all 3 of them evenly? Okay? If I look at factors for these, if it helps, you can write them out. There's a whole lot of factors to 30, 15, and a couple for 15, or 45 and 15. But I'm really looking for the greatest one. So I'm not going to put over here, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and write those above it, 9 times 5, and 3 times 5, and 1 times 15, and 1 times 45. There's a lot of them. So I'm going to look at these 3 and I'm going to say, well, what can go into all of them? Well, 5 will go into all of them. 10 won't. But does 15? Will 15 go into all 3 of these numbers? And yes, it will. Okay, so I'm going to factor out a 15. Okay, 30 divided by 15 is 2. Now I'm not factoring out any variables whatsoever, so I'm going to leave that a to the 5th. A negative 45 divided by 15 is 3. So minus 3a cubed, and then a negative 15 divided by 15 is just minus 1. Okay, so this is your factored form. And then we'll check it. So 15 times 2a to the 5th minus 3a cubed minus 1. And I'm going to distribute right there. 15 times 2a to the 5th is 30a to the 5th. I'm going to distribute here, minus 45a cubed minus 15. And ta-da! It checks out. Okay, on this last example, we're going to look at factoring, and if you don't factor out the greatest common factor first, how can you recognize that? How can you fix it? And work through the problem totally. If I'm looking at all three of these numbers, I automatically know they're all divisible by 2. I know that 2 will go into every one of these terms. So I'm going to start by factoring out a 2. Now that negative 8 doesn't have a variable on it, so I don't have to worry about factoring out variables. But negative 8 divided by 2 is a negative 4, plus 4 divided by 2 is 2. Don't forget your x, plus 8x squared. Okay? So this is factored, but it's not factored all the way. Okay? Because I can look inside these parentheses and see that each one of these terms is still divisible by 2. So I can factor out another 2. Now if I pull a 2 from each one of these, and I already have a 2 out here, I'm going to multiply those 2's. There's already a 2 out here. I'm going to pull a 2 from each one of these, so I'm going to multiply 2 times 2, and now I have a 4 outside my parentheses. Okay? Now, I know that in pulling that other 2 out, I'm going to take this number right here and divide it by 2. This number and divide it by 2, which is, just a 1x, but you don't have to put the 1 there. There we go. Plus 4x squared. Now, if I look at this expression, I don't have any more greatest common factors. This greatest common factor is just a 1, and it's not I could pull another 1 out or anything like that. So I know that this is fully factored. Now, since I went through this extra step in the middle where I didn't pull out the GCF at first, I had to wait till I got down here. I'm going to check this and make sure that I get my original expression. Okay, I'm going to distribute all the way across. 4 times negative 2 is a negative 8, plus 4x, plus 16x squared, and it checks out. All right, have a good rest of your day, guys.